So I've observed an interesting specimen of human behavior. Let's examine this case study together. What we have here is a classic mother-in-law dynamic, one that's been simmering quietly for 4 years, documented in polite dinner conversation and carefully neutral text exchanges. But here's the fascinating part. The subject believed they'd achieved peaceful coexistence. They were wrong. Our narrator has been lactose intolerant their entire adult life. Not the dramatic kind where EMTs get involved, just the variety that makes you spend 6 hours curled up on the bathroom floor questioning every life choice that led to that moment. They've managed it perfectly well. They read labels. They ask questions at restaurants. They keep their own food stocked at home. This is not a personality trait, it's basic biological reality. Pin that thought, they've been with their husband for 4 years. His mother has known about the lactose intolerance since day one, never commented, never pushed. Our subject assumed this meant acceptance, perhaps even understanding. Fascinating specimen, the assumption that silence equals approval. Last month, Sunday dinner. The mother-in-law prepares what's described as this big, creamy pasta thing. Already we can see where this is heading, but let's observe the subject's response. They approach her quietly. Just between the two of them, very calm, very polite, they ask if there's perhaps a portion without the sauce, or maybe something else they could eat instead. Reasonable request. Adult communication. Notice what happens next. The mother-in-law looks them dead in the eye and delivers this absolute gem. "Oh, I think you can handle a little cheese. You always make such a big deal out of nothing." And here we see the disconnect between perception and reality. 4 years of silence wasn't acceptance. It was judgment, marinating quietly, waiting for the exact right moment to surface. The mother-in-law didn't suddenly develop this opinion at Sunday dinner. She's been holding on to it, letting it age like fine wine, and now she's serving it up with a side of public humiliation. Our subject is caught so off guard they just stare at her. Completely understandable response. When someone rewrites 4 years of apparent civility in a single sentence, the human brain needs a moment to process. Her husband steps in, says he'll grab something on the way home. Conflict avoided, right? Wrong. Because now the mother-in-law announces to the entire table, and I want you to really appreciate this. She announces that her daughter-in-law is refusing her food and asks everyone present if they think that's rude. The audacity here is genuinely impressive. His aunt is there. His cousin, his father, all of them just sitting there, watching this unfold like it's dinner theater they didn't pay for. Our subject responds very quietly that they're not refusing anything, they literally cannot eat dairy. Simple biology, medical reality. And the mother-in-law fires back with, "Well, my son eats everything I make just fine." Observe the logic here. Her son, who does not have lactose intolerance, can eat dairy without incident. This is somehow presented as evidence that her daughter-in-law, who does have lactose intolerance, is being difficult. It's like saying, "Well, my son can see perfectly fine without glasses," to someone who needs glasses. The reasoning is breathtaking in its complete disconnect from how physical bodies work. They leave early. Naturally, what followed was a text message, because of course there was, where the mother-in-law claims she's been embarrassed in her own home. Let's examine that claim. She made food her guest cannot physically eat. She dismissed a legitimate medical condition as attention-seeking behavior. She weaponized the entire family dinner table to publicly shame someone for having a digestive system. And somehow, in her version of events, she's the victim. The cognitive dissonance is delicious, but here's where the pattern becomes especially clear. The husband was supportive, but our subject notes he didn't fully know how to handle it, and that part stung more than what his mother did. And that's the real story here, isn't it? Because a difficult mother-in-law is one thing. You can manage that. You can set boundaries, limit contact, keep things surface-level polite. But when your partner doesn't know how to handle their own mother publicly humiliating you, when they are supportive but hesitant, that's the crack in the foundation. Our subject ends with this observation. The mother-in-law has never been outright mean before. This came out of nowhere. Except it didn't, did it? 4 years of silence wasn't kindness, it was patience. She's been thinking this the entire time, just not saying it. And now our subject is left wondering what else has been lurking beneath all those polite Sunday dinners, all those carefully neutral holiday gatherings. What other judgments have been quietly cataloged, waiting for the right moment to surface? Notice the specimen's closing question. What else has she been thinking this whole time and just not saying? That's the thing about people who perform civility while harboring contempt. You never really know the full inventory until they decide to unload it. And by then, you're left questioning every previous interaction, every smile, every "it was lovely to see you" at the door. Retroactive doubt is a special kind of psychological warfare. And here's what makes this particularly fascinating from a behavioral standpoint. The mother-in-law didn't do this in private. She didn't pull our subject aside later and say something passive-aggressive. She chose a public setting, a family dinner, witnesses on all sides. She wanted an audience. This was a performance. The question is, what was she trying to prove? That her daughter-in-law is difficult? That she, the mother, is the reasonable one being victimized by picky eating? Or was this about reminding everyone at that table, including her son, exactly where the power sits in this family structure? My working theory? All of the above. Because people who dismiss legitimate medical conditions as phases or attention-seeking behavior aren't operating from ignorance. They're operating from ego. Accepting that someone can't eat dairy means accepting that their cooking, their hospitality, their control over the dinner table has limits. And some people simply cannot tolerate limits. Our subject managed this perfectly. Quiet request, polite tone, willing to leave without drama, and they still got turned into the villain of Sunday dinner. That's not a failure on their part. That's a masterclass in how some people will create conflict out of thin air just to maintain their narrative. And so concludes our observation of family dynamics and the fascinating ways humans manufacture drama out of basic biological reality. The specimen who cannot process dairy has been reclassified as difficult. The mother-in-law who publicly shamed her guest has claimed victimhood. And the husband is somewhere in the middle, supportive but uncertain, which is exactly where this pattern will continue to place him until he decides otherwise. Predictable, as always. If you've ever dealt with someone who treats your actual medical needs like a personal inconvenience designed to offend them, drop a comment. And if you're wondering whether you should keep attending family dinners with someone who thinks lactose intolerance is a phase, friend, you already know the answer. Hit subscribe if you want more field notes on human absurdity. I'll be here taking notes. Title suggestions primary. MIL thinks my lactose intolerance is fake, so she humiliated me at family dinner alt 1. She called my lactose intolerance a phase, then made me the villain at Sunday dinner alt 2. MIL weaponized family dinner because I can't eat dairy alt 3. I can't digest lactose, so my MIL decided to publicly shame me instead.